right now, New York is coming up pretty soon. And I know there hasn't been a lot of new polling showing that there's a huge change. I know I've heard rumors of a slight bump for Bernie lately just because some people are putting up, but there's been a monstrous bump for Como, even though he's not really running the election, things like that. Okay, so first off, what are your sentiments about Bernie Sanders staying in the race?
I'm fine with him staying in the race. I think the whining that it's bad and that it was bad in 2016 for him to stay in the race is really overblown.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think people should use the campaign as long as it's alive to basically agitate for his issues. I am not super optimistic about his chances to actually pull this off anymore, especially now. Like the New York stuff, I'm hearing talk like they'll delay it. But states that are delayed get fewer delegates at the convention and things like that. Like I think, and I don't think the American public is as up as we are in how poorly Biden is handling this. Actually, I mean, they think Trump is handling this well. So I don't know if Bernie's going to be able to capitalize to actually win it. I mean, if Biden has to drop out for some reason, it should go to the person with the next most delegates, and that would be Bernie. Maybe there's a way to get him in there, but as far as for him actually winning this thing, I think people should go out and vote for him definitely, and even in swing states in their general, like write him in, whatever, if you feel the need to. But I must say I'm a bit pessimistic about his ability to actually turn this around so late.
So you think the New York primary is still going to go ahead even with everything that's happening?
I haven't followed it super closely. The last I heard is that I think they were going to delay it and make it by mail. I could be wrong. They'll have to because you can't just not do that primary. I'm pretty sure because there's down ballot races. So I think they need to primary for those. But I'm not 100% sure about that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the election being what it is and the current race being what it is, that Bernie Sanders will use the delegates he already has as leverage to try and maybe get Joe Biden to agree to a handful of the things that he may not have done before?
I hope so. I don't know. It's weird. Like, it seems like the pandemic. It's weird. The timing of the pandemic is so weird when it comes to Bernie Sanders issues, because everybody now, the private insurance is a joke, right? And all these different Bernie things. It's like, clearly we need to do that. I don't really have much faith that the Democrats respect Bernie Sanders' leverage to the extent that he has it. I hope so, and I hope that reflects itself in personnel. Like, I think the DNC, it'd be nice to get Tom Perez out there. It would have been really nice if Tom Perez was instead Keith Ellison these last 4 years. I'm not super. People are really wanting Bernie to play hardball with the Democrats, and I understand why, and I wish he would too, but I don't think he's going to. So I don't know. We'll see. But it'd be great, like somebody like Matt Duss, his foreign policy guy. It'd be nice to see the right people at least promoted or hired by certain organizations. And we'll see what this ends up as. If Biden loses, it doesn't really matter what the Democrats want to give to Trump. If Biden wins, I think Bernie does have he has the people who are paying attention, and they're not going to go anywhere even after this campaign. So the people in the base that are paying close attention, and I think that will always at least let him float things. But we saw with this bailout bill that he was able to get some things, but that bill is a piece of crap.
Yeah.
So we have to, and it's a similar thing with a lot of the stuff around AOC. Is AOC and Bernie are only going to be as good as the people surrounding them. And so if we don't get a good crop of new squad members into Congress this year, any heroics from Bernie or AOC aren't going to do us much good, is my opinion on these sorts of things.
So Trump right now is still climbing in popularity, despite what most people outside of the MAGA sphere are seeing as kind of like completely blundering his response to the coronavirus outbreak. Do you think there's going to be a cap on that, or is that going to continue all the way through November? Like, to me, I've always thought there's got to be an apex point where the amount of deaths will eventually break even the most hardened of Trump supporters.
Yeah, I think it honestly is going to come down to how bad this gets, and if people know somebody who couldn't get a ventilator, for instance, then you might start to see those numbers go down. I think they'll come down eventually. I don't think. I mean, we're in the pre-depression phase of a depression. So he's got to weather a lot still. I wouldn't be feeling super confident. The main thing I'd feel confident about is how bad the Democrats are, and if they keep obsessing about means testing, and like the whole. There could not be anything more discouraging than the way that they played that bailout. So if they keep playing it like that, and the message is so mixed, and Biden says, I think it's too harsh to say Trump has blood on his hands. Mm-hmm. I mean, it might not hit him more than a few percentage points when all is said and done.
But like, is the president ever electable if they're in the middle of like a depression / one of the largest? I mean, this could be the largest health crisis body count in American history, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why, and a lot of people have been saying this about Biden being replaced, because I don't know, it's hard for my imagination. I'd love to be wrong.
Yeah.
If Matt Iglesias said, like, if the leftists would come out and say that they preferred Trump, like, who really prefers Trump to get 4 more years over Biden?
No one.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, definitely no one in the left, unless they're accelerationists, I guess, maybe, because that's the only justification I could see.
Even then, like, accelerationists with making a very specific media play, I feel like, because I don't know, there's plenty on the Biden menu for accelerationists, I think.
True. Yeah, that's also true. So where do you, I guess you can't really make any predictions because this is all uncharted territory. We've never seen anything like this, but where do you see perhaps the short term going? Like, is New York going to be a mail-in election? I just read someone said that it was postponed until June, so that's good. Right. Is the November election going to be mail-in? Like, I don't see any of this being resolved in a month, let alone 2, right?
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about the New York thing being delayed is it's delayed. The bad thing is I think the DNC is going to make it count for less.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, Bernie didn't win New York against Hillary either. And
I don't see him winning against Joe Biden.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it'd be nice if somehow this benefits him. But was there another question besides the New York primary one that I forgot? I thought
the general election, like I know America seems to have a really deep fear, especially the Republicans, of doing electoral reform or fixing the broken system. But
well, it's not broken for them. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
For Republicans, this is like the perfect system.
Oh, of course,
they've been absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I am very pessimistic about certain things like that too. Like, I had certain high hopes. Hopes for Stacey Abrams, and she's now taken this whole voting rights mantle up because she got screwed out of an election in Georgia. But like, I feel like the way she played the Bloomberg thing was a bit iffy, and I think it's indicative of the fact that I think the professional Democrats, whatever you want to call them, the DNC, whoever, I think they fundamentally look at democracy as something to be managed and not cultivated, and the Republicans look at it as something to be suppressed. And I don't think that I like Trump the other day. We played on Majority Report today. Said it was on Fox and Friends. He said the Democrats were asking for too much voting access in their stimulus bill, and that was in response to private interests like getting their stuff in there. So I mean, there's such a hostility to democracy, and that's why, to double back to the whole label thing, I think the word democratic for our moment in history is important to put in socialism in front of socialism, because I think the socialism and the state intervention in the economy is going to happen. We're very quickly exiting an era where the idea that capitalism can provide on its own is just ludicrous to everyone, and people get it now. So how do you make the state respond democratically is the real problem. And I mean, you look at the way the Iowa caucuses went, and we can't do paper ballots. you look at the history of American elections, the Robert Caro books on LBJ are instructive. Like, he just stole elections to get in. The 1960 election between Kennedy and Nixon they were both trying to steal it. So Nixon couldn't complain about it. I mean, we're entering a very dark time for democracy, unfortunately, I think. And I honestly think if people are one of the best things people can do locally is to join a Democratic Party or elections, like volunteer for the elections, just to keep an eye on it, honestly. Because I think a lot of these things are going to be taken out of Democratic hands even more than they already have been.
Well, as long as socialism is the word after democratic and not national before the word socialism,
exactly.
Which is, I guess, my other fear. Okay, so that'll be my next question. What are your thoughts on the fact that this might be used by someone like Trump to, or at least his team, to assume more power, right? Which you're starting to see in other countries, like Hungary, for example, is using the guise of the pandemic to maintain more control over the populace.
Yeah, I think I imagine Peter Thiel's company, Palantir, I bet those offices aren't social distancing right now. I bet you they're getting to work because, I think definitely this is I think it's what I find horrifying is like the amount of ways that this moment is being taken advantage by, the Koch brothers or whatever probably won't be apparent until another decade from now.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question? I'm getting too negative again.
No worries. What are your thoughts on Trump perhaps using this as an opportunity to continue to assume power? Like, is that an inevitability? How much is the public going to push back? How much protest can be done in a time when we all have to stay indoors, right?
I mean, that's another huge problem. I think if Trump gets 4 more years, it's not him necessarily I'm worried about, but like Bill Barr is terrifying to me. Like he's basically the last person you want to. I mean, I frankly it'd be nice if the Democrats had just impeached him instead of Trump and tried to, I don't know. But anyway, I think definitely people like that just the judiciary, right? Like they might not even have to get just expand ICE into, rounding up podcasters. You just expand the judiciary and you can do a lot of this stuff in general. I mean, I'm not shocked, but I'm wary that how free the internet, we're able to have this conversation right now. How long does this last if this becomes, the pandemic, not to get too doom and gloom, hopefully we're back to normal later this year, right? Mm-hmm. But I worry about just the consolidation of monopolies throughout this too. And they feel very confident, like Lockheed Martin or Boeing. The guy's like, I don't want the government to have a stake in the company. And guess what? The government didn't take a stake in the company, even though we have all the leverage. Yeah. And the stimulus I saw, and I don't know if this math is right, but basically $2 trillion equates to about $13,000 per worker. And we all get $1,200 from that. The rest is going to corporations for future labor control, basically. And that, the U.S. government's one thing, but we're also governed by our corporate state as much as any country on earth. And now they have all this money to play with and try to entice you back in, basically control your labor. So it's already happening. Basically, the checks have already been signed for the first phase of, I think, corporate fascism of a kind that, it's not the Leni Riefenstahl. I mean, there is the MAGA rallies, right? But a lot of that's I feel like our understanding of fascism, when we basically focus too much on the madness of crowds and not corporate hierarchies in a country, I think it's a big problem when we think about fascism that way. And we're going to get the second kind, where it's just a corporate hierarchy that controls everything.
Proto-fascism.
Exactly, yeah. And the fascism element comes from them needing to get enough enthusiasm to get to a very gerrymandered ballot box. But there is an element to that, and it's pretty reliable, actually.
I'd say the only thing that bodes hopeful is the fact that they don't know how to do economic populism, because they genuinely don't care.
Yeah, they can't. They literally can't do it. That's always been the fear. But the reason that and this was a whole infrastructure week joke with Trump throughout the entire thing, but I worry that, we say they can't do it to take advantage of it. Maybe they know they don't need to because the Democrats also can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just worry this party can't actually meet the moment that it's facing. The Republicans they just do not care. And I don't know. I'm pretty pessimistic about that. But on the bright side, Trump is an idiot and petty, and it's possible that he could fire Bill Barr before he does too much damage, I guess.
As long as, let's just hope Bill Barr crosses him, because that seems to be the only thing that warrants termination.
That should be a leftist project, is to find a way to get between Trump and Bill Barr.
You were just talking about how, and I mean, this has been resounding with me a lot. This whole event is kind of, I think the veil has been lifted for a large part as to all these systems that were in place that were supposed to be benefiting everyone, don't at all. On the gloomer side of things, do you think we could walk away from this kind of scenario? Maybe not as much in the US, because maybe it's a lost cause, but like in a lot of other parts of the world, seeing that, like, we need stronger social safety nets. Like, especially the US is such a great example of this, because one of the reasons they're going to be hit worse than any other country in the world is their complete lack of a public healthcare option, right?
Yeah, I think that is actually an optimistic thing, that I think we can be pretty assured that there will be that the idea, like a collective idea in society, is going to be less. I mean, that was poisonous 20 years ago to talk about collectivism, right? Like I feel like in America, that's all out the window now. I mean, Boris Johnson, even in the UK, said we are a society, basically contradicting Thatcher. Like I said, one book I would recommend to people is Ira Katznelson's Fear Itself, which is about the 1930s and the drift to totalitarianism by a lot of different countries. You mentioned Orban earlier. Like, this is happening again. It's a similar recurrence, and it's basically what happens to global capitalism when the idea that the heroic capitalist lord of creation lord of job creation can control everything, and you actually need the state to do it. And that's where we go back to, will the state do it democratically? And I think the people, America reacted fairly, there's certain case studies from the American Depression, like communists and leftists, and a lot of the agitation they did to make all that stuff work. I think it's definitely not, in America, it's not foreign to the soil as corporate media and history would make you think. So I think conversations I've been having with family members of mine about just the wisdom of private insurance, or should a capitalist own a hospital? Yeah, or
a prison.
And exactly. Like, these questions, it's becoming more apparent to people that you don't have to blow people's mind with it. You can speak in a more matter of fact register than a sort of theoretical one.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Do you like cozy environments with other wholesome people? Well, then come join the Discord. It's got a whole bunch of stuff to help you with creative endeavors, such as stock footage, royalty-free music, and an amazing community of people looking to help each other out and uplift your content. Join the Discord now by going to weareserfs.com. That's weareserfs.com.
We would like to thank Miranda Marone. You are our monarch, and we thank you for our indentured servitude. We would like to thank our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, Michaela Schmid, Tomospin, Ferrer Tahone. You are all the pillars of our organization. To our Knights of the Square Table, Paul Parafit, Daniel Kahn, Clement Chutskoth, Alan R., Josh Mickelson, and Dr. Zayas, Cooper Pilot, Andrea Lynn Epperly, Dylan Bythe, Terry, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. And to our merchants, thank you for taking mercy upon us.